Our first speaker is Anthony Bryan. Ant is a my voice is going. I've done a lot of talking today. I'm sorry. Ant's a para athlete and a personal trainer with lived experience of CP. And he's represented England twice at the World CP Games, winning gold in both 800 meters and 1500 meters. And he's now a personal trainer at a gym, and that's teaching exercise classes for both non-disabled and disabled members. So Ant, over to you.
Thank you for that. So I'm just going to share my slideshow. Give me a second. So this is a bit about me. My name's Anthony Bryan, or most people call me Ant Bryan. So I live in London. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story and my journey, what I've been through. So this is me at the age of 6, just your happy, active, sporty, hyperactive child, always playing football, always running around. Until the age of 6, I started getting some really, really bad headaches. And I started becoming very, very lethargic, not wanting to do anything. So my parents thought, this isn't right. So they took me to the hospital to get me checked up on, but doctors just said, oh, it's just migraines, have some medication, and sent me on my way. But these headaches got worse and worse and progressively worse. My parents thought this really isn't right. So they took me to a private hospital to get checked. And within the 24 hours, I was having a brain scan to see what was going on. What they found was I had a brain tumor the size of a tennis ball. So a 6-year-old's head is probably about that big, and a tennis ball is probably about that big. So it was a pretty big brain tumor. And what they found was this brain tumor was actually shutting down my vital organs. So it was like, we need to get this operation ASAP. So I went to Great Ormond Street Hospital and had an operation to remove the tumor. This is me after the operation. During the operation, they removed the tumor, but what they found was I actually suffered a stroke during the operation. So I lost the use of my left side. So I ended up with a left hemiplegia. So this totally turned my world upside down. I was confused. I was only a kid. Didn't know what was going on. I thought I was just going in to have an operation to remove this thing in my head, then everything go back to normal again. It turned my world upside down. I had to relearn how to walk, had to relearn how to live life with one hand. I was bedbound for a good month or two, and I was wheelchair bound for a good 3 months. I had to have intensive physio every day for the next 3 months after my operation. And me being just a normal child, I just wanted to go and play games or run around and play football, but I had to sit and do my physio. So I started to resent physio and hate it because I wanted to go and play, but I had to do my exercises. And I was away from school for a good year, so I didn't even get to see friends and learn at school. I had to stay at home, have a home tutor. So I just kind of became very down. It was totally different. Eventually, I was allowed to go back to school, and I was excited because I get back to some normality. But although everyone in my class tried to include me in everything they did, in games and activities, it just wasn't the same for me. I wanted to keep up and do everything I normally could, but I just couldn't do it anymore because I was in a wheelchair and I just couldn't do anything. And teachers were worried about me going outside, outdoors at playtime and lunchtime. So when everyone was outside running around playing football and games, I remember I had to sit in the window and watch everyone just playing. And I remember thinking to myself, I wish I hadn't survived this operation. Why am I still here? I wish I was out there. If this hadn't happened to me now, I'd be out there playing football and running around and loving life. But instead, I'm stuck in here like this and hating life, and began to really hate myself. And my self-confidence just went down. I remember, because I was the only disabled child in the whole school, I remember I used to wear big coats just to hide my difference in the arms. I would always wear a jumper because I didn't want my arm to be seen. Even if it was hot weather outside, I'd wear a coat because I didn't want my arm to be seen. I was always hiding away. And even in one of the PE lessons, we're having a football session, and I said to the PE teacher, I'll go in goal, because I wanted to join in. And he just went, you can't go in goal. You need 2 hands to go in goal. He didn't mean to be offensive, but to me, that absolutely broke me. So I just stayed away from sport. I stayed away from anything. I became very shy, very self-conscious. And it wasn't until secondary school I still had all this self-conscious and no confidence in me, but that's when I started to come out of myself. And Tottenham Hotspur actually had a football team which they started, which was for people with disabilities. So I joined this football team, and for once I was actually being included and was playing amongst people which was similar to me. And because I could only use my right side, it was extra strong. So I always had this really powerful shot. So whenever I ran with the ball and went to strike a ball, everyone would literally duck and get out of the way. So we actually won the league that year. And we won every single game that year. And I was actually starting to find that I was actually finding something that I was good at. But from this picture, you can still see I'm hiding my left arm behind my back because I'm still hiding my disability. Even though I'm enjoying my sport, I have no confidence and I'm hiding my disability. So in every single picture, well, that in my teenage years, I was always hiding, still wearing my coat, hiding my arm, because I was only a disabled kid in my secondary school as well. And obviously when you get to the teenage years, obviously you're interested in girls and things like that. And to me, I thought girls aren't interested in me because I'm disabled. So I never really, I was too shy to talk to any girls, and sport was my thing. That's what brought me my confidence out. Where playing sport is where I was excelling. And one of the coaches said to me, "You're actually pretty quick. Have you ever thought about trying for the Paralympics?" And I was like, "What's the Paralympics?" And he said, "It's like the Olympics, but for people with disabilities." And straight away I said, "No, I'm definitely not doing that. Why do I want to do a sport that highlights disability? I do definitely not want to show off my disability." And he goes, "I need to talk to your parents." So he spoke to my parents. He goes, he's got some speed. You should really kind of get him into running. So my parents thought, yeah, we'll give that a try. And so I went to do some training sessions, and I went to do my first ever disability competition. And it actually opened up my eyes, opened up my world. I was looking around, loads of different disability athletes. I went to an able-bodied school, so I never saw anyone else that was disabled. And seeing all these other disabled athletes, no one was looking at each other differently. Everyone was encouraging each other, and everyone was just going out there, even with their struggles, giving it the best they could. And I actually won 2 gold medals in the 100 meters and the 200 meters. And I was like, this is cool. I want to do more of this. So I went to my parents. I want to find a coach and do some training. I want to do some more of this. So I started training more. I started getting stronger. I started getting fitter, and I started believing in myself more. I found something I could do. And instead of being told I can't do this, I can't do that, there's something that I actually can do. So I started training more, doing competitions, winning some competitions around. And in 2012, I got to the Paralympics trial games. So this is for the trials for the Paralympics in 2012. And I ran the 100 meters and the 200 meters. But to get selected for Great Britain, you had to be in the top 3. And unfortunately, I finished 4th. So I just missed out. But this was a huge opportunity for me. I competed in the Olympic Stadium, and I was looking around, like, I want more of this. So I decided to volunteer as a games maker for the Olympics and the Paralympics. So when the Paralympics and Olympics were, we were the ones that were bringing the blocks out. We were walking the athletes to their starting positions. We got to walk Usain Bolt out. We got to walk Johnny Peacock out. And I remember looking around, and the crowd are going wild for these athletes. I was like, that's amazing. I want the crowd to cheer me on one day. So this just kind of spurred me on. I want to do more of this. So after the games had finished, I went to my coach. I was like, I want to be there next time. I'm going to put more training in. I'll make it work. And she's like, okay, so let's make it. Let's train harder. Let's up your game. She said to me, so you struggle with the 100 and 200 because of your disability. You can't get that speed straight away. So let's try something a little bit longer. Let's try the 800 meters and the 1500 meters. And straight away, I was like, 1500 meters. That sounds like a marathon. I can just about do 100 and 200. I can't do 1500. And she said, well, you never know unless you give it a go. So I went along and trained in the longer group. And my first session was doing like a few 400-meter runs. And I remember even the 8-year-old girls and the 12-year-old girls were going past me. And I was like, this is so embarrassing. I'm at the back. The younger girls are even leaving me behind. I was like, I can't do this. And my coach said to me, give it a go. Give it a go for a month. And if you still hate it, you can go back to your sprinting. There's no problem. Just give it a go and see what you can do. She goes, did you complete it? I was like, I completed all of it. She goes, there you go. There's your first goal. Now you have to keep it going and try and get fitter and fitter. And she was right. Over the next month or so, I got fitter. I was moving from the back into the middle of the group, and my times were getting quicker. And it was literally because I went from thinking I can't do this to actually trying it and then believing actually I can do this. So I started to believe myself a little bit more. Then in 2015, I was selected to represent England in the World Games for 800 and 1500. And this is for the T37 class. So that's cerebral palsy down one side of the body. So that's down my left side of the body. And I actually won gold in both, and I was world champion. And now I'm thinking, this is just boosting my confidence. Now I'm thinking, I can do this. You can see the strength where I've been training really hard. You can see the posture. I'm looking really confident. And now I can say I'm a world champion. My confidence is starting to grow. Still outside of sport, I'm still that shy, not confident person, especially with girls, still thinking I'm not good enough. But in sport, this is something where I know I can do this. And this is just another picture of one of my races. This next picture is a good one. So the picture on the left is me at 19. That's my very first race. You can see I'm hunched over, confidence isn't really there. Next picture, that is 10 years later. It took me 10 years. Look at the strength and the confidence and just the way I'm standing and running. And here's the key point. So when I was in the first picture, I hated showing off my left side because my left side was a lot smaller than my right. So I used to wear a t-shirt underneath my jumper so it'd hide the size of my shoulder and my other shoulder. So I'd always wear a top underneath so it'd hide my arm. I'd wear a longer top to hide my arm or my shoulders. And then in the other picture, you can see there's no vest on, the strength is looking good, and I've got more self-confidence there. So that's a 10-year difference. So it took me a good long time. It didn't happen overnight. And then I started winning medals in different competitions. And so this is some of them behind me here. And I started thinking, wow, I actually have achieved quite a bit. I started thinking to myself, what more can I achieve? I thought I couldn't even do 800 meters or 1500 meters. What more can I do? How much further can I go? And it's actually my younger brother was doing a 10K race actually. And he doesn't go to the gym. He doesn't even do any exercise. And he's doing a 10K run. I thought, if he's doing it, I can do that. So I didn't do any training and I thought, I'll give it a go, see what I can do. And the first half was okay. I thought I can do running, I can do this. Then it got harder and harder. My left side, my cerebral palsy side, was dragging along the ground. I was really getting tired. I'm trying to pull myself along, and I got to about 7K. And in my head, I'm thinking, just stop. This is ridiculous. This is way too far. And I'm really struggling, and it's really hurting. And someone ran past me, and as they went past, they went, amazing work, you're so inspiring, keep going. Just that comment made me go, wow, I've got to keep going now. I cannot stop. I've got to keep going. And the more I went on, the more people were clapping and cheering me on. And I thought, this is really cool. And I actually managed to finish the race, did it in I think like 55 minutes. And I said to my coach, if I can do that with no training, surely I can run faster and increase that time. He's like, sure you can. So end of the story, we started doing lots of training. I got my time from 55 minutes down to 48 minutes now. And that just goes to show you, if you think you can't do it, just give it a go. And then if you put some work into that, you can really excel. So that was my sporting side. Now this is kind of talking about a job side. I used to really enjoy going to the gym all the time, and I saw personal trainers. I was like, I'd love to train people. So I applied to be a personal trainer, and all my tutors were like really impressed. It's like, oh, you're so inspiring. You can do all this with a disability. You're going to go on to great things and really inspire people. And I thought, cool, cool, cool. And I went around some job interviews, but every job interview I went to, they were like, oh, you haven't got enough experience. So I went, I'll go and volunteer at a gym, get some experience under my belt, then go back to these people. And I think they've got to give me a job now. So I went back to all these interviews and I was like, one guy said to me, you haven't got the image we're looking for. I was like, oh. And then another guy said to me, he goes, look, I'm going to be straight with you. You can't lift weights with two hands. How do you expect to teach others? So it's like, well, I can do it with one hand. And then I'll talk others into doing it. I've been able to do that up until now. And he just said to me, no, I don't think you can do that. So I kind of just gave up on being a personal trainer. I just concentrated on my sport. I actually went and worked in a supermarket for a good year, no, 3 years. And I kept volunteering in the gym. And I said to the gym, I need to be someone that these jobs cannot resist to say no to. So it was like, okay, so let's get you teaching some exercise classes. And I was thinking, what? I got to stand up in front of all these people and tell them to do exercise. It's like, you can do that. I mean, even in this picture, you can see I'm still hiding my left arm. I'm still hiding my disability. That confidence is just not there. But it's like, give it a go. You never know. So I gave it a go. I was so nervous. But people came up to me afterwards like, oh, that was really inspiring. I've really felt that workout. I'm looking forward to it next week. So every week I started teaching classes. And now I teach one of the biggest exercise classes. I do HIIT, I do circuits, I do ab work. I teach loads of classes, and I'm one of the most popular classes because I show people that if I can do it, then anyone can. I kind of say to people, think of your body as a Ferrari. A Ferrari is one of the most fastest, most powerful cars in the world. It can drive up to 200 miles an hour. So if you're driving a Ferrari 30 mile an hour, are you going to win that race? And the answer is no. You have to really push your foot down and see how fast you can really go. Because if you don't push down that car as fast as 30 miles, as fast as it can go, all those other people are going to be overtaking you. They're going to be getting the jobs you want. They're going to be achieving what you want. They're going to be living in the house you want, earning the money you want. So my advice is put your foot down and see what you can really do, see what you can achieve, and just give everything a go. Whether that's sports, jobs, anything. Go as fast as you can. Really see what you're capable of. What I say to people is, here is a £10 note. Now, if I scrunch that £10 note into a ball, what is it worth? The answer is it's still worth £10. If I tear it up into tiny little pieces, what is it worth now? Still worth £10. If I put it on the floor and stamp on it, does it lose its worth? The answer is, no matter how hard things get, when things get on top of you, when things pressure you, when screw you up in ball and kick you to the ground, you never lose your worth. So just remember that. No matter how hard things, no matter how many rejections you get, you never lose your worth, because someone out there will really be inspired by you. So this is something I say, I do talks at primary schools and I say this to kids. What is your superpower? It's like, we haven't got a superpower. It's like every single person has a superpower, and that is self-belief. Because self-belief, if you believe in yourself, you know you can do it. That's your confidence. Confidence isn't arrogance. Confidence is believing you can do something. So I'll give you an example for me. I didn't think I could do 800 or 1500. I only thought I could do 100 and 200 because I believed I couldn't do more. It wasn't until my coach said to me, give it a go, try it. And the more I did it, my confidence grew. The more my confidence grew and I knew I could run that, that's when the achievements and the medals came. If I'd listened to my PE teacher that said, you can't do that, you need two hands, then I would never have got that far. People will always say you can and you can't. That's just their narrow-mindedness. There will people that will inspire you and push you on and tell you, yes, you can. And the more you say, yes, you can, the more you will achieve. You might not be great at everything. There's things I'm not amazing at, but I'll give it a go and I'll find I can do it or I can't do it. Just have to learn. So if you want to follow my journey, But on my Instagram, I post everything from my running, my gym work, my jobs. I even posted a dating one on there because dating has been a whole new experience for me because of my disability and because since I was at school, I thought no girl's going to be interested in me because I have a disability. And even now in the real world, sometimes still think that. But sport is where my confidence is, and that's where I'm going to show what I can do. And if I can do it, then anyone can do it. If you want to follow my journey, then look on Instagram. It's Ant Brian Fitness, or my YouTube channel is Ant Brian Fitness. I hope you really enjoyed my talk today. If you have any questions, then just let me know at the end. I'll be here until the end, and I hope you enjoyed that, everyone.
Amazing. Thanks, Ant. If anyone has any questions, do pop them in the chat and we can have a look at them after we've heard from Rox. And Ant, just on your comment about dating, should have come to our session a few weeks ago. We did a session all about disability and dating, just to put that out there. But Mim, correct me if I'm wrong, it's going to be on YouTube.
Yeah, the second one is going to be uploaded onto YouTube very shortly. And the first one we decided, because it was very sensitive with Enhance the UK, we chose not to record it. It was a brilliant session, but we're hoping there's always opportunities to get them back. So yeah, watch this space.
Just wanted to put that in there because it seemed like it fitted very well. So thanks very much. And so we're gonna introduce now. Our next speaker is Roxanne Steele. So Rox is an accessibility and inclusion specialist and also has lived experience of CP. By the time she left school, Rox had obtained 10 gold medals and a national record in sport, and she went on to obtain a BTEC in sport excellence and performance at college. Rox reunited with her passion for sports after finding Chronic Warrior UK in lockdown, and not only training in adaptive boxing, but supporting the community as a mental health mentor, whilst also supporting to create content to amplify the great work on, is it Louise? I wasn't sure how to pronounce that, on Louise and the community. So Rox, over to you.
Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen. Sorry, not prepared. Should have been more prepared. There we go. Can everyone see my screen now? We're good? Good. Hello there. As you may have guessed, I am Roxanne Steele. And I actually asked Anthony to go first, and I'm really regretting that now after that presentation. I think we do have different styles, but I think they will complement each other. So hopefully you can take something from mine as well. But please don't leave. Please listen to mine. Anthony, that was amazing. I just felt myself nodding along completely, and would love to have a chat with you after. Absolutely. But before I start my talk, I'd just like to thank obviously Miriam and everyone for allowing me to speak on Midweek Matters. I think we all have that kind of feeling of who the hell am I to say or have an opinion or be a face or someone that motivates someone. And actually that stopped me from getting to the point where I am now a lot sooner. I think I would have been a lot happier if I realized I am someone, I have light, and I have ability to shine light on other people. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my light with Adult CP Hub today, and hopefully you will allow me back after this presentation. So just before I start, I want to tell you that my identifiers are she, her, or them is absolutely fine. I will also be using the identifier disabled person, and I could talk about language. If we're doing a session on language, I'd love to be in there, but I just wanted to explain why I actually proudly identify as a disabled person. I identify as a disabled person under the social model of disability, which recognises that it's not me that has the problem. So it's not my CP and all the things I bring with it and any medical diagnosis. Actually, it's barriers in society. And if we start looking at it like that, then society can start removing barriers. And this also enables people to think more more than their own condition or a diagnosis they have. I am also a trained activist with the Young Women's Trust, so I identify as a disabled person, as a social political identity, to be able to actually campaign for the rights of disabled people as well. And that's why I say I'm a proud disabled feminist. And of course, in my day job, which I can't help but draw from, I am an accessibility and inclusion advisor. So a little bit about me. As I said, not a fan of focusing particularly on medical diagnosis, but I do think it's important, especially with the group that we have today, to tell you I have cerebral palsy, spastic dysplasia of the upper and lower limbs. Now, isn't it ironic they give us a title that is really hard to say, but I made it through. For me, as you know, CP can look very different, but for me at the moment, it looks like I'm using a manual wheelchair 99% of the time, and I have personal assistants to support me to remain independent, whether that be at home. I do live on my own, or at least with my dogs, definitely, or indeed at work. And I have also put down here, I'm a proud 90s child. Now, it's not because the movies were great, the music was great, and the TV was great, because obviously that is the case. I proudly identify as a 90s child because I think it's reflective of my journey with cerebral palsy and having a disability. If you think about it, I was born at least 5 years before the Equality Act even came into place. So there wasn't even a law that recognised that I shouldn't be discriminated against until I was like 5, 6 years old. And I think that is really important. It also recognises that we didn't have the Equality Act till I was 20 years old. And it also recognised that I left school in the period of a credit crunch, which most people would struggle to get a job. And obviously, someone like me coming into that space at that time, it was very hard. So that is why I proudly identify as a 90s child, and I might use some of my references today. I often say to the people that when I'm speaking, isn't it a thing to think about that actually that Equality Act law didn't come in before Disney's The Lion King, so people knew the lyrics to not a whole new world, what am I on about, Circle of Life, before they knew that actually I am a person and I deserve not to be discriminated against, whether that be directly, indirectly, victimization, or indeed harassment. So I'll tell you a little bit about my journey. I'll start with school. I actually say I was in a very privileged position. I went to Victoria Education Centre, which was at the time the language they used was a specialist school, which actually enabled me to obtain all my therapy and schooling in one place. And it also meant that I had access to weekly hydrotherapy and swimming lessons, which I know is actually a privilege for a lot of people. And I do recognise that. What that also meant for me is that they had an after school programme and they had a big focus on sports. And while that was really good, and I love sports now, and I would have been really into sports in hindsight, actually it wasn't the fact that I wanted to get into sports that I went into all these clubs. I was literally in a club Monday to Friday. Any club I could get into was because I was actually brought up by a single father, and actually there were barriers to the support that we received. So that's school clubs and those after school activities and those weekends away to athletic competitions were respite and support for my father. So in a way, I think in hindsight, I'm surprised I didn't feel too much pressure to make sure I got through. So he had a weekend off, but yeah. So actually during that time, I obviously succeeded in many different types of sports, even coming to the point of when I was 11 or 12, I'm sorry, I can't maybe even younger, actually, maybe even younger, I was scouted for the GB boccia team. But unfortunately, my dad and my family didn't have the support to be able to facilitate me going to obviously all the meets and everything that was required. So unfortunately, I wasn't recognised in that Paralympic team, which, wow, if you think about it, how would that have changed my life? Absolutely. But then everything happens for a reason. Obviously later in life, as I got older, I started doing track and events. So I have, I had, I'm sure someone's broken it because it was when I was 16, which is a few years ago, a national record in the 60 meters, as well as 10 gold medals in other areas as well. And that's just a few of my accolades. I won't go on about it. It's not interesting. No one's worried about that. But actually, the only reason I was able to achieve that was I was given a 3-wheeler wheelchair by the school, and I obviously had the support of support workers that were employed at the school and all different supports. As soon as I left school, the chair and the support disappeared. So it was really great that I decided to go to college and wanted to do sports, because I wanted to not only be in the Paralympics, but I recognised, and I think I was quite an old head on young shoulders, that actually I wasn't going to be a Paralympian forever, even if I made it, because of the short lifespan, and especially with CP, I was expecting it to be even shorter. So I thought, well, at least I can be a trainer then. I can train people. If I don't make it to the Olympics, I can challenge and champion people to be there. So I went and I enrolled on this course. Obviously, there were a load of questions and like, are you sure going to like a mainstream able-bodied school? I don't like that phrase, but you know what I mean. Not only was I one of 2 females in that class, and I was disabled, so of course I kind of stood out. I probably didn't help myself at the time because I was also a massive goth, or I was trying to be, embarrassingly. And so I really had an affinity when Anthony was talking about clothing and trying to mask. You know, I was a small size 6 to 8, and stuff like that, but I would literally buy band t-shirts that were 16 to 18. I would borrow other people's clothes, anything to cover up. I would even have the biggest handbag possible to carry around college, that I would actually, I use my belt. Here's a little tip for you. I use my belt to actually loop my handbag handle, sorry, I lost the word, into my belt so that no one can take it. But what that meant is I had a massive bag just to cover myself, and that's what I did. And during that time, and I won't go into all the details, there was obviously a lot of barriers I was facing. They were trying to support, or in their view, they were trying to support. No one told me about what's the word? Disability students allowance. No one offered any sort of support. I was going around a mainstream college very much on my own, and the pacing was really, really difficult. And actually the lessons and things like that, they weren't adapted to my body, because that's the thing. And I'm sure Ant will probably nod, or at least, you know, agree with me here. A lot of people think, okay, how do we make something adaptive? Well, just don't do something with your legs. That makes it adaptive. Well, no, actually, a proper and true adaptive workout acknowledges the muscle groups that like a non-adaptive workout would use, and a good PT will know how to adapt that kind of movement or that exercise to ensure that you're engaging those muscles. So actually, they were giving me advice that was pretty poor, and you know, and I didn't know any better. But actually, because of my mental health, I ended up actually finishing my course at home. I never accepted my certificate. I went into a period of mental health issues. You know, I would try and get jobs at gyms, And even on, when you have to have work experience, I managed to get a job at a local gym for 2 weeks. And of course, I was just popped on reception. I mean, I was very good at it, but that's because I used to work in my nan's hairdressers for years. So, I didn't mind. But the whole idea was, there was a few things. One, the whole gym was upstairs. The main machines and everything were upstairs, no lift. And I will say this is back in 2006 to 2008, showing my age again. So obviously it definitely wasn't where it is now. But it wasn't only that, because I was like, okay, challenge accepted, get me upstairs. I'll do what you need me to do. No, because the clients won't get it. People that come to see PTs, the same with hairdressers, they look at you to see what they want to aspire to. Why would someone want to look at you and think, I aspire to be in a wheelchair? Which, wow, when you're told that, and obviously at the time, I wasn't like, wow, I was like, he's right, because you internalize that because of the language that we use as a society. So that really affected my ability to actually go on and do the career that I wanted to do. And someone please do stop me, because I forgot to check the time when I started. So if I'm talking over, Miriam, please stop me. I don't think I am yet, hopefully. Yes, that really put a stop to my career and my mental health. It really, really affected me. So I decided I needed to get a job. Because, I'm not just a disabled person. I'm a person that has wants and needs, and we all know it. Those wants and needs are often fulfilled with money. So I went and got a job in insurance and in sales, because a lot of people that actually work in sports go and work in sales because of, those transferable skills. And I will be talking about transferable skills later. Don't you worry. We'll be talking about those. So actually, that kind of stopped my career journey. So we're starting to move down to leisure now. Now sport was part of my leisure. I managed, and honestly, it was so hard to obtain 3 hours a week, I believe, under direct payments to be able to obtain and go to the gym. Well, I'll let you know, for one, that's not enough, because that includes everything from the moment you've left the door to the moment you come back again. And I can tell you 3 hours a week to be able to do that, especially in the rural area that I live, and with a disability, crazy that they haven't thought about that, but it's just not possible. So I would often try and go, and I would go on my own, and I felt myself nodding when Ant was saying that certain things. I would often do body pump. I love body pump. Obviously, you can imagine when I turned up and was like, I want to do body pump. They were like, we've got seated yoga. I'm like, no, you're right, mate. Can I just come in and speak to the instructor? And so obviously, me being me, totally did that. I was like, right, we're going to get some dumbbells and you're going to put one either side of me and we're going to stack it up. So I used the steps, the steps that you get in gyms, to create tables, and I had dumbbells either side, and I did the whole workout every time I went. But the problem I had, well, not a problem, and I'm glad there was some visibility of a disabled person being active, but actually it was, people would stop and go, well, how come I'm struggling in this session and you're not? And it was almost like a distraction. I almost became tickets to a show. So it did affect me, but I carried on because that was really important. But obviously, that leisure support has now been cut. And obviously that was cut just before COVID. And I say during COVID, I will say during lockdown, because COVID's not over, I was actually registered or perceived as extremely vulnerable due to complications and extras that come with my cerebral palsy. I have a safe swallow pan because I have dysphagia. So for safety, things like that, there are different complications. So that really kind of affected my mental health. And I went into a complete deep depression. I was about to face my 30th birthday, basically stuck indoors with little to no PA support, because that had literally been cut via letter days before being told to stay in. I couldn't get hold of social services. I couldn't have any support. And I will just say a trigger warning here. I am going to talk about mental health and suicide. If that is okay, I'll just give you a moment. Is that all right? Because of that, I called the doctor and said, "You've got to help me. I'm gonna kill myself." Obviously, I didn't say it that nicely. It was definitely not that nicely. And you know, it was my PA at the time that went over and above and took me to the doctors. And they asked this question, which I always get asked because I have a history of mental health and have been in this situation before. Why didn't you do it? Well, isn't that a lovely question to ask someone? They do that all the time. They often also associate all my mental health to do with my disability. So it must be, I want to kill myself because I have cerebral palsy. Absolutely not. It's the barriers. So again, I'll go back to the barriers and kind of how reduced I am as a person. I don't even feel human. And do you know what my answer was to that question about why didn't I do it? I said, I can take all the pills in the world and I can forget this, but there's no pills to give any of my family or the people that love me pills to forget me. But one day that isn't going to be enough. And so I was really scared to be stuck indoors, because, you know, that's a red flag to a bull when you're feeling like that. So I took to social media. Not easily. I am not one of those people that were proficient on social. I couldn't even share a story. So I taught myself to share a story. I taught myself how to use Zoom and find people, and I accidentally found Chronic Warriors. And honestly, I don't think I'd be doing this job or speaking to you without kind of that support. But what I would say is it's really important to remember that actually I still had to go and find that. That didn't come to me. So it's really important to remember that you do have to go and find things. But you are worth taking that time to go and find what you need. And use your social media. Yes, you may not be like me and Anthony with a load of medals. Trust me, that they're not that impressive after a while. They're just more things to move when you move. No offense, and but it's true sometimes. I'm like, oh God, what am I doing with these? But actually, can you share your story on social media, whatever that means? You know, what makes you move? Are you listening to music? Would you be happy to share a video of a dance, or even just a post? You don't even have to show yourself doing it, because actually that is going to help someone else. And that's what I'm going to ask you to do today, because actually, you know, I can sit in these spaces, but I can't sit in all spaces. And I wish there was a little version of me that I could give you and put in your pocket, but I can't. So I need you to share your story, because right now that is what I'm doing. And hopefully that is helpful to you. Imagine what you can do for someone else. Because I think Anthony said something like, you know, your story is going to be someone else's dream. And honestly, sitting here right now is a dream that I would have had 2 years ago and thought, never going to be doing this. I am fulfilling a dream right now. But actually, to fulfill those dreams, sorry, I moved the slides on a bit faster than I expected. We first have to identify barriers. So actually, I picked out a few barriers. They're not exhaustive. I'm exhausted. They're not exhaustive. Fear. So not only fear of will I get this wrong? Will I get injured? Will I belong? Will someone want me there? Actually, and I'll say this myself, it's fear of perception. And that's something that comes across a lot with me on social media. So I'm very clear when I post why I'm posting something. So for example, and I'm sure Miriam as a physio will probably understand where I'm coming from. yes, I can throw a good right hook and I'm sure I can take you out. But it doesn't mean that I can pour milk into a cup of tea without spilling it everywhere and potentially hurting myself. But actually, when people see those pictures online, they have no concept of that. Sorry, I can hear myself. That's really weird. Sorry about that. So they've got no concept of that. And I think there is that fear of, if I share all of me, people are going to question my disability. And that's why it's so important that we move more towards the language of barriers, rather than actual diagnosis in the right spaces. A diagnosis has a role and has a place, but actually these are all coming out in the wrong places. Money, we all know that we have barriers to money as as a community, but actually there are a lot of things that we can do for free. So it's really important to identify that, yes, money is a barrier, but actually how can we overcome those barriers? Another barrier for people is opportunities. Now, this can go one or two ways. It can be there's not an opportunity, for example, for you to play football, or there might be loads of opportunities out there, but no one's telling you about them. So there's that information barrier. And actually, there might be barriers to support. Do you have a family network? Have your direct payments been cut? Totally understand that. And it might seem counterproductive and not very positive, because disabled people have to the time, but actually to be able to identify what we want to achieve, we have to first identify what's stopping us, and we can't be afraid to do this. So what I want you to do is go away after today's nearly said session, sorry, it's because I'm used to work, and think about these questions. What do you want to achieve? And as I say, that can be basic to, I want to move more. So what are you currently doing? Now, this isn't a stick to beat you with. It's honestly, what do you think you're currently doing? And actually make a log of that, because you might find that you're actually doing a lot more or a lot less than you think. And it's really important to do that, because if we compare ourselves to non-disabled standards of movement, which is often the only guides that we've got, we don't really understand if we're moving enough. Again, those barriers, what stops you and what support do you have? Sorry, I'm speeding up because I've seen the time. And top tools to try, and I wanted to do the low to no cost, so really things that you can find around your house. Think about using your Google Suites and your Microsoft apps, for example, keeping notes of what you're doing, adding times into your calendars and saying, right, I'm going to move now. Was it not disabled, CP Foundation that said we should be moving, not necessarily boxing or doing, we should be moving at least once every 2 hours for healthy movement for people with CP. If that's something you struggle with, try some timers or alarms. Have a look on social media for inspiration. I'm a big believer in that you are what you eat, and that includes your news feed. But do be mindful of the people you are following. A lot of PTs, and I'm sure Ant will agree with me, think, again, it's absolutely fine, I'll just take the leg part out of it. But actually, are these people qualified and insured and confident to help you? And a lot of times they will say yes, because we're going to go back to their fear of excluding you and getting it wrong. But actually that can be dangerous. And then when you're ready to move, what household objects can you use? And that might even just be your Alexa and putting on music, or using tins of beans. Yeah, tins of beans, even, that's what I was going for. I got it right and my brain told me I got it wrong there. Tins of beans, or anything around the house that really gets you moving. So I really want to not move you away from the sport, but really bring it back to basics here, so that everyone, so even any carers on the call, can really start to think, how much am I moving? Am I looking after myself so I can look after the people I need to? And that is the end of my presentation. I could talk on this for hours. So be glad that I can't talk on it for hours, but please feel free to connect with me. You can either use my link tree or I put some QR codes up there for you. And I'm more than happy for those slides to be shared after today's session. Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Rox. Cool. So I've seen in the comments there has been, or in the chat, there has been a few questions and comments. So Dean asks, Ant, what's next for you? Is your arm still an issue for you? It shouldn't be, and you're doing great. And Dean is following you on Instagram now.
Thank you very much, Dean. It's only recently since I'm starting to get more confidence in my disability, because I have a coach and he actually challenged me to put Instagram posts about me and my disability, because every post I'd put, I'd always hide my disability. So he's like, show what you do, because you're a beast in the gym with a disability. That makes you even more cool than an able-bodied person in the gym. They got no struggles and they're going to the gym. You got bags about of struggles and you're smashing probably even more of a workout than they are. It goes show that. And then so I thought I really didn't want to, but when I did, I got all these comments, all these likes, people, oh, you're amazing. I was like, wow, people aren't kind of judging me for disability. They're inspired by I'm doing it anyway with a disability. So my confidence is actually growing a lot since my teenage years. So not as self-conscious as I was when I was a teenager. So I'm not going to hide away from any pictures. That's my new challenge. Don't hide in any pictures. Next for me, personal training, teaching more exercise classes, and just get more out there on social media. That's my next goal.
Cool, thank you. And Dean has also left a comment for Rox saying, Roxanne, you've had barriers, but you seem to make things work for you. And Dean is also following you on Instagram as well now.
Thank you, Dean. Yes, I'm so glad I came across that way, but I promise you it's a fake it till you make it situation. Just because I'm here talking to you, honestly, anyone can do it. If I am doing it here, one thing I don't say is if I can do it, you can do it. It's if I can find a way to do what I want to do, you can find yours.
Great, thank you. And I think, Lindsay, did you have a question?
Well, it's not so much of a question. I just want to thank you. I believe we can all do what we want to do. But one thing I do want to say is sometimes in the sport area I find a lot of barriers because I briefly read the authorities said once that I had to stop going to the gym with my support because I was ready to do it in my own time. My argument was when is it and the authorities are good, but I think different authorities are different in some places, but it's getting a lot better. But I would like to access more sport as I can. I've found this talk really useful. I'm very active on social media. Myself, I've actually got around went on too long.
Not at all, not at all. Thank you. I'm just checking the chat quickly. I mean, I made loads of notes and I have lots of questions to ask, but do you think, so for both of you, do you think your school experience affected how you see your body now?
Anthony, do you want to go first or should I? Sorry, I can jump on that button pretty quickly if I've got a response.
Go for it. You go for it.
Absolutely. And can I just say, no shade on the school or the school system. I didn't understand cerebral palsy at all until like about 4 or 5 years ago. Because do you know what phrase I was always told when I was a kid? There's nothing wrong with your brain, there's things wrong with your legs. Well, we know that's not right. I didn't even understand how cerebral palsy worked until I was actually bullied by someone with muscular dystrophy saying, well, at least I'm not brain dead. So I didn't really understand. So yes, it did affect me. And I think it gave me a warped perception of my ability in sports in the wider world. Or my barriers, sorry, not my ability, my barriers.
Great, thank you. Anthony?
Yeah, for me, school had a massive effect. So my confidence was down, but because I went to able-bodied school, I had to compete more to kind of keep up with them. So if I wanted to play football, I had to keep up with the other guys. I probably remember we had to do a 12-minute fitness Cooper run test. And I remember looking around, I was like, I can't come last in this. And like, I was like, I can't come last to the lazy, overweight kids. I can't. So that was in my head. So I had to keep pushing myself so I didn't come last. But that made me stronger. So confidence was down, but it made me learn to become stronger.
Great, thank you. Jamie, I can see you've got your hand up.
Jamie says, hi. Jamie says 2 things. I think what a great pair of speakers today. And what we are on, what's going round, world class talks tonight. Is that what you're saying? That's nice. You good? Can you go back? Can you go back to what rock? Rock. Sorry. Sorry, just this is a person's name. Oh, Roxanne. Right, yes, you said rock. You can't say Roxanne. Right, so what Roxanne said, yes. What think? Do you think? No. You said think. What you do. What you can do. It's right. Yesterday. Yesterday you met a 19-year-old woman. So Jamie was in a meeting with her as a mentor, as in she was another person who uses AAC like a computer or something for speech. She came in and very down and said, oh, her old man said, good luck. Fine. And so Dad dropped her off and said good luck. And then so you were talking to her. Open it up to you. It was so she was at college. That's what's wrong. 5, 6 months. So she'd been at college and people hadn't been talking to her for 6 months. So nobody had spoken to her, probably because of being nervous. Sorry, not she didn't have any friends or anything. You said, right. What are you gonna do? Oh, so they've decided they're going to do a talk between them at her college for all the students to find out all about her. That's proactive, isn't it? To go and do something rather than she'd obviously been not really wanted to tell anyone or something. And she was very happy. She was very happy about that. Sorry. The manager, Jamie's manager was crying. That was very emotional. That was only yesterday. Yeah, so to look at what you can do rather than moping about what you can't do. Yeah. And thank you. Is that it? Thank you to both of you.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you for that reflection. Honestly, I love to hear that people want to share their story.
Jamie, you never fail to bring a great story to one of our meetings. It's fantastic. Honestly, I could do a little trilogy, or I'm looking forward to next time to see what the next story is. They're amazing. They're brilliant. And I think also one of the things that that both Roxanne and Anthony have really personified is, and Anthony, you said it in your talk, give it a go, you never know. And it's like, this girl was not going to accept the status quo because the status quo was not right for her. It wasn't a good situation. And in fact, it was a really unhealthy situation. So it's phenomenal. And so sometimes, as the only able-bodied person in the room, I can say that I think sometimes we are a bit apprehensive about asking questions because we don't want to offend, but then we get ourselves into a cycle where actually we make it worse for everybody. So it's kind of about biting the bullet and say, I don't mean to offend you, but, and then apologize if you have offended as but I think that we just need to all be a bit braver at being kinder and more curious and caring about each other. So
can Jamie just show you something? It was his birthday yesterday. This is what he got for his
happy birthday.
The t-shirt. I don't know if you can see this. For anyone who can't see, it says, I still run better than the government. And if you know Jamie, he actually can't walk, so that's
oh, fantastic.
That's great. I like that t-shirt. You have to share where it's from.
you just type in "I still run better than the government," you'll find quite a few T-shirts with it on Amazon. Amazingly.
Funny that.
Can I raise a question now? Because
Of
it's been going
course.
a little chat around the amount of time it takes, like Roxanne was saying, if you've got PA support for leisure, and Claire was mentioning it as well about her swimming. And I'm just wondering about turning it round a little bit, because you've both had experience of personal trainers, and actually Nat, you've had experience of personal trainer as well, haven't you? I don't know who else in the room has, but is it possible, I don't know financially how it works out, but to have the personal trainer come to you at home? And I know it's not the same in the way that they've got equipment in a gym, but you can, with some basic equipment, still achieve a reasonable cardiovascular and conditioning workout. And whether one, that would work better because it's in an environment that you're familiar with, and two, that would work better because it's possibly cheaper than leaving your home. Obviously with Claire, she wants to go into the pool, so that's not really viable at home, but the rest of it, I'm wondering whether that's an exploration about turning it upside down.
Could I speak to the budgeting and the care, and maybe then Anthony can think of some ideas from his point of view, because I can speak to direct payments. I apologise, Anthony, if you can as well, and I've just made assumptions. But actually, yes, as some of you may know, you literally have to justify time, and you know, if they've given you, say, time for a swim once a week, then you don't then have time for going to see family. So it's very much a choice, and I feel like a lot of people give up the choice of fitness because you need to connect with your family, you need to go and do your appointments. And you're absolutely right, it would reduce the cost, but there would still be an element of cost because a lot of people will still want to bring their PAs, and as you say, with people coming into their homes, then that's great, but also some people might not feel safe with that. So I agree that it could be an option, but what I also don't want to see happen in the future, because I can already hear it kind of creeping in, is whatever it needs to send you anywhere, if we can find you something with a Zoom, you never have to leave the house.
Oh. But I'm thinking, Roxanne, from the point of view, because one of our friends within the hub is Sam James, who also is on Instagram and and Facebook, and she's a disability fitness expert.
Yeah.
She has. Do you know her?
Yeah. And no, as I say, absolutely agree that, you know, if PTs can come to your home, that will reduce cost, but for some people that may not remove barriers. But again, we've talked about how not all barriers can be removed the same for the same people. So actually, yes, I should have just said yes, but I was also giving you reasons why. And also, people might fear doing that because social services, and I will say, well, the PT can do everything. Okay, is the PT going to take me to the toilet? Is the PT going to feel comfortable getting me into my sports bra? Because I can tell you, my PA finds it hard enough to get me into a sports bra. It's not very accessible.
Anthony, is there anything you wanted to add to that?
I would say that a lot of personal trainers in the gyms are very very fickle. Personal trainers, all they know is kind of building muscle, performance, this and the other. Whereas when they're struck with a challenge of disability, they just don't know what to do. There is a lot of online disability trainers, but if you go to a gym, there's hardly any disabled people working out in a gym. You might get the odd one or two. I think the gym I go to, I literally the only one, and I work there. Since I've started, I've kind of been talking to a stroke group, and I've been like, look, you come along, I can help you, I can give you advice. And that's been a big hit. So find role models, and don't be scared to go into a gym and try something. It's quite a daunting place, but once you're in there, it's not daunting. People actually look up to you if you go in there and give it a go. I'd say that.
I think that's you know, one of the things. So I know Adult CP Hub did a poll on one on their Facebook page around kind of people's barriers to you know, to kind of fitness and that kind of thing. And one of the biggest barriers was not wanting to hurt themselves. And I think, you know, that kind of ties in with that, doesn't it? That kind of going in and just giving it a go. And I think not wanting to hurt themselves is definitely something that I related to when I first started going to the gym, because like you say, it can be really daunting and a bit like, whoa, I don't really know where to start. So what kind of advice would you give for people that might have that concern? Like, how could they get started?
You need to build a rapport with someone. Maybe go to the gym, chat with people. Don't be scared to chat to a personal trainer or a fitness instructor and be like, what would you recommend? And just be super open and super honest in it. Be like, if you don't know, then do you know someone that might know, or do you know any members that are disability? Can you put me in touch?
Can I add to that? Sorry, could I add to that? I think it's also okay to say that even though they might be a personal trainer, it's important to remember you know a lot about your own body as well.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be afraid to add that. Sorry, I've cut you in there. Sorry.
That's all right. No, you're very right. You're very right. Yeah, you know your body. Same as doctors will say to you, you can't do this, you can't do that. But that's just going on scientific stuff. You know what you can and can't do,
Mm-hmm.
but do it in the right way and have support around you. Have a carer with you, and yeah, try things, but do it in the right way and just ask loads of questions. Don't be scared to ask.
Definitely. Another question that I had is, in both of your talks, you both spoke about parasport and the Paralympics and trying out for the Paralympics, but I think it's right of me to assume that there's probably going to be people on this call and in the wider community who want to look to get more active but don't actually have an interest in sport per se. So it's I don't want to put you both on the spot, but what, you know, kind of advice would you give to those people in particular?
Not every disabled person is a sportsman, and it's absolutely fine. Don't try and make yourself a sportsman. As I said, bring it real back to basics. What makes you move? Have you got a tune that you put on your Alexa and you can feel like you're wiggling? Even those micro movements of your muscles is so important, especially for someone with cerebral palsy. You know, do you have dogs that you can have rough play with? And that's how you get your movement. What works for you?
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. You don't have to aspire to be a para athlete or Paralympic athlete or get to Paralympic Games. Do what you enjoy. If you enjoy going for walks every day, or enjoy a new scenery, or going into scenery, taking photographs, go in a wheelchair, or you can go for a walk and see how far you can go. Or online workouts. In lockdown, I did chair workouts for people with disabilities, and that hit. One of my busiest live ones was 2,000 people. So you can do it from home, you can go out, but the main thing is, as long as you enjoy it, you don't have to really kind of, and the smallest thing can be an achievement. You don't have to think, I haven't achieved anything if I haven't become a Paralympian. Small achievements are big goals.
I like that a lot. And I guess it's not really a question, but I guess it's just kind of a comment really about, again, how you both kind of spoke in your fitness, I guess, journeys is probably the best way to describe it. How there was a point for both of you where you felt self-conscious, and you know, I think both of your stories had that as a kind of a bit of a running theme kind of early on, and it just kind of made me think about what you've both said about that kind of preconceived image of personal trainers and fitness, and that all definitely ties into being self-conscious and that fear of perception. And I think that's definitely something, you know, going into this big daunting gym, kind of that fear of how you're going to be perceived in there. It's not really a question, it was just a bit of a comment really. So I don't know if either of you wanted to come back onto that, or we can, Dean's hands up if not.
Yeah, it is so difficult, because your first thought is, oh, I'm out of place here. But you kind of have to be in your own zone and just do your thing, and kind of tunnel vision. Don't worry about anyone else. You're there to do you. You're there to do your thing, improve yourself, your life. And that you'll find, by the more you do that, people will just be inspired and take notice of what you do. So just do you and be the best version of you. And don't worry about people's opinions.
No, absolutely. And I support that completely. And to be honest, I don't know what Anne thinks, but I definitely think from my experience, people are too busy thinking that other people are looking at them. They're too worried about what people are thinking about them. Actually, you know, I have mentioned that I went into classes and I did get spoken to, but actually on a one-to-one basis, most people are either worried about them, or they've come to the gym because they're pissed off about something. They're focused on what they're doing. But in regards to my face doesn't fit, do I belong, which I think is really important here. You know, I think, what could I have done if I had the tools that we had back in 2006? I probably would have my own online platform and things like that. And this is what I think. It's so important that people see representation. So we need people to still try and get into these sectors, to actually change these sectors. This is exactly why when mannequins were designed, they were designed without heads and put against windows, so people could literally stand or sit in front of them and see themselves there. Imagine yourself walking into a gym. You probably don't see yourself there now, but imagine if you saw someone like me training you. Could you see yourself a bit more in there now? So it's really important, actually, for you to change the way things look. We have to go into places before they're ready for us. And that's a big thing. And that's an amazing thing.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Dean, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. Just I was on another call today, and we were talking about fitness and exercise and keeping yourself active. And one of the things that came up, and it's come up here as well, in previous sessions, is that exercise, you might be doing something completely different that isn't termed, like it's not a sport. So you could be doing something like housework, or like for me, putting my shopping away, because I'm moving my arms in different places when I'm putting things in the shelves, and when you're cleaning, you're moving. You're not just moving your arms, you're moving your body, especially if you're on a bad day. You tend to be moving different parts of your body. So any activity is better than no activity at all. And since I've become a great believer in that myself, since I've sort of been getting a bit more fitter than I was previously. Thank you.
I think I just wanted to add that what we touched on right at the beginning of the month was there's a lot more research. Obviously, there's a lot of research into exercise and how that changes our body, but there's a lot more research around when we all stay still and what that does to our body. So there's a gap between being active and exercising. you know, where you really pump your heart and you really push it. And that is obviously a very important research area. But the majority of us, as we have evolved and become, you know, we've got remote controls for everything. We don't have to get up off our bottoms to change the channel anymore. We don't have to, we can go to the shops in a car. We don't have to walk there anymore. Our global lives have become more sedentary. So it's about looking at how we can, you know, get that little bit more active, like Dean was suggesting. And I think it's a really important distinction to make, because like you say, being active doesn't mean you're a sports person. So
definitely. So I'm just conscious of the time. I know we've only got 5 minutes left, so I wonder whether each of you can give us your kind of top 5 tips and maybe top 5 like pieces of equipment that you might want to use. So yeah, either of you want to go first?
I'll go for it.
Yeah, because I've already given mine.
Okay, so number 1, I say go out there and be the best version of you that you possibly can. Number 2, give everything a try. Even if you can't do it, give it a try. If it sounds impossible, just give it a try. You never know, you might surprise yourself. Number 3, don't doubt yourself. Number 4, running out of things to say now. Number 4.
3 is fine.
yes.
Oh yeah, so number 4, remember your worth. Remember the note. No matter how hard things get, when it punches up on you like that, you do not lose your worth. I'll give you that.
Great, thank you.
Oh yeah,
And just a reminder.
Go on.
No, I was just going to say a reminder of my question. So carry on, Ant.
I was going to say the equipment that I use. So if you struggle to use things with your hands, so if you can't grip onto things, I use something called an active hands grip. So you wrap it around the wrist, and I attach it to gym equipment. So I can't grip on with my hand, but if I attach my arm, I can use the major muscles like shoulders, biceps, triceps. That is a key piece of equipment for me in the gym, because I literally wouldn't be able to build any muscle on my left side because I can't hold anything. So have a look for that. That's called the active hands grip. That's a really, really good one.
Sorry, I was looking for my egg weights because I was going to show you, but I've changed my desk today and I don't know if anyone's put them back on my desk, but egg weights are really good as well. Sorry, just to add in on that, I love my egg weights because it has a grip on it, and I even use them in, say like I'm in big meetings, I am listening, but actually I'm able to use them to, and I was going to show you, but moved, I can use them to like just contract my muscles and make sure I'm moving, or indeed stim in a certain way if I'm anxious. So they're really good, and I'm sorry, I thought I was prepared, but because I had to move my desk today, which turned out that they delivered the wrong desk that was too big for my wheelchair, but that's another story. So a couple more weeks to wait again. But I just wanted to remind you of my questions that I said that I really want you to think about. What do you want to achieve? And again, that is down to basic movement, not just gold medals. What are you currently doing? So try and be as honest with yourself as possible, but also keep a log to find out what you're actually doing, and be honest. What's stopping you and what support you have? And remember that actually you've got a lot of tips and tricks that you've already got on your phone that's going to help you today. So you've got apps, so you can obviously keep notes and keep an idea of your diary, as well as other fitness apps as well. And that also includes Spotify for me, that movement, those timers and alarms, utilizing social media, and checking out your own household objects.
Amazing. And look, we've got 1 minute to go. It's amazing. So all of it is left for me to say is a big thank you to Anthony and Roxanne for taking us on this journey this evening, and for everyone's contributions, perspectives, and sharing their own experiences here as well.